are these moths that exist in England. Okay, they exist in the island of England, and they're interesting because they are these white. Originally, they were these white moths with a little bit of black specks in them. But then, who here has heard of the Industrial Revolution? Please raise your hand if you've heard of the Industrial Revolution. This is not biology. This is history. Industrial Revolution. Let me see. Michael has heard of it. Stanley has heard of it. Thank you, Stanley. Jalen has heard of it. Brianna has heard of it. Thank you, Brianna. So, the Industrial Revolution was basically a time where technology began expanding at a very, very quick rate. So, pollution started happening a lot more. So, during the Industrial Revolution, forests in England started becoming black. Like the trees, instead of being a light color, they became dark. Jalen is tracking me. Thank you for paying attention, Jalen. Brianna's tracking me. Thank you, Brianna. Devontae is tracking me. Adrian's tracking me. Thank you, Jalen. Adrian, sorry. How are you doing, Octavius? I see you tracking me. Darius is tracking me from the back. So, we're going to see what happens when we have two different kinds of moths in different environments. So, the first one we're going to have here. Alright, so do you guys want to have a dark forest or a light forest? Raise your hand and tell me if you have a preference. Stanley, what's your preference? Dark forest, okay. So now let's see, which ones are the easiest ones to kill over here? Which ones can you guys, so, let me see, I can't see. You guys hear that? Can you guys see the dark moths? Yeah, we're killing the moths. I can see the dark moths from time to time, but the light moths, aren't they much easier to see? Can you guys notice that? See, here's a dark one. I'm just showing it to you guys here. Now there's no more moths. There we go. I'm so bad. There we go. Kill another one. It's a very violent game. Don't play this at home. Okay. I'm really bad at this game. I'm really bad at clicking for some reason. But in the beginning, we had 50-50%. We had 50% of our moths were dark, 50% of them were light. Can somebody read this paragraph for me? Please raise your hand silently. Sonia. Okay, let's go with Sonia. Next time I'll go with you. Okay? Okay. So Sonia, can you please read it?
Before started with light moths, 80% dark moths. Now there are 35% light moths and 65% dark moths. Since you could see light easier, you ate more light moths than dark moths.
Okay, so what did you guys notice about this game? Which ones were easier to kill? Raise your hand. Really, which one were easier to kill? The light moths. Okay, now can somebody tell me why? Please raise your hand silently if you know why was it? It's a pretty simple answer. Darius has an answer for me. Jalen has an answer for me. Can somebody? Why was it easier to kill the light moths than the dark moths? Okay, Marjavian, let's go with Darius. Darius, why was it easier for me to get the light moths?
Well, you could see them.
You could see them like that, right? But the dark moths, it was so hard to find them. I wasn't even being able to try to locate them.
Please pardon the interruption. Can I have a problem with students to report to the cafeteria? There is between quiet. Delby Johnson, Otis, Trenton Anderson,
Okay.
Johnson, Jesse Johnson, Jason Lewis, Michelle Arnold, Xavier Wilder, Terry Sweet, Kylie Dwayne, Asantria Cornell, Darius McNeil, Devontae Evans, Tobias Hill, Will McFarland, Christian Gibson, Quincy Hamworth, Deontay Solomon,
That's it.
Chris Griggs, Kelsey Wood, Retravius McCollum, Amir McGaddy, Marquez Horton, and Cornelius Holiday. Thank you so much. Please pardon the interruption.
All right. So thank you everybody for staying silent. That was awesome. Hopefully you didn't hear that. That's the what's up. Your paper? I'll give it to you in a second. You're not. Okay, so we're talking about the theory of natural selection. selection. Natural selection is a theory that was developed by Darwin. Who here has heard of Charles Darwin? Please raise your hand silently. Okay, Michael Thomas has heard of Darwin. Sonia has, Jalen has, Stanley, you've heard of him? Devante, have you heard of Charles Darwin? No?
I heard it.
You have?
But I know.
You don't know who he is? Okay, so Charles Darwin was this British scientist in the 1800s. So he is important because he's the one who came up with the theory of natural selection. He traveled for 5 years to go to the Galapagos Islands. When I'm going home, okay, you guys know I'm from Brazil, so when I'm going home, it takes me tops 2 days to go home. And it's far away, Brazil. In the airport, right? In airports and airplanes. 2 days. 2 days in airplane and airports. Okay, everybody, let's. I'm the one talking right now. If you want to make a comment, raise your hand. So it takes me 2 days. He took 5 years getting there. So he had a lot of time to think. He noticed a couple of things there. So everybody is supposed to be filling out your guided notes. This is on your guided notes. Please write down. You don't have guided notes now? All right. So everybody, please fill this in your guided notes. Brianna's filling out her guided notes. Thank you, Brianna. Okay, Tatiana has already done it. Yes, Stanley.
Well, you say they, you say they said love Brazil.
I live in Brazil. Galapagos Islands, I'm going to show you guys where they're at. Just write that down. All right, you guys already got it down? Okay. So the Galapagos Islands are on the coast of South America. Okay? So, for example, this is Brazil. This is Ecuador. And then these are the Galapagos Islands. They're pretty far away. Galapagos Islands. Yes. So this is what they look like. You guys notice that they're not very close together. You can see that there's like at least a little bit of water between every single one of the islands. So there, Darwin was basically looking at nature. He was a rich white man, so he could do whatever he wanted. So what he wanted to do was look at birds, look at turtles, and try to see and figure out what was different about them, what was similar about them, what did it mean that they looked that way. So he's on these islands, and he notices that there's these birds that kind of look alike, but not completely look alike. They kind of look alike, but not completely. So, what he notices is the one difference, the one real difference between these birds is that okay, so the difference he notices were the beak size and the beak shape. Okay? So each island, so remember, this is what the islands look like. Each island, so if he came here, the birds look different from here. So Fernandina looked different from Isabela. Isabela looked different from Martina. Santiago from Santa Cruz, Santa Fe, Floriana, Espanol. All of them, the birds look different. So if he was on one island, the birds look kind of similar to each other on that island. But then if he hopped on his little boat, called the Beagle, and went over to the other island, then they look different. Okay, so he was like, what's going on? Why do these birds look kind of like the same thing, but then they kind of also have these weird beaks? So, continue. So these are the islands, and these are the Darwin's finches. I wanted to bring actual images of birds this time instead of just graphics. So, for example, if you compare this bird's beak to this bird's beak, do you see? Is this one bigger or is that one bigger? This one is what? Bigger, right? That one's really tiny. It's really small. It's really good for picking up like small things. For example, this one is really thin and long. It's good for picking up, for example, insects. While, for example, this one, it seems really strong, right? It seems like you can like get a little nut or something and crack it. So, the woodpecker?
Yes, a woodpecker.
Yeah, no, it's not a woodpecker. It's called the woodpecker finch, but it's different from a woodpecker. So the difference in the birds' beaks corresponding to their diet. Please be writing this down. Devontae's writing it down. Thank you, Devontae. Tatiana's taking her little notes. Thank you. Marjavion is taking his notes. So the difference in the bird's beak corresponds to differences in their diet. Okay, raise your hand silently if you know what a diet is. Like, okay, Stanley knows an answer for me. Jalen has an answer for me. Marjavion, you haven't spoken today yet. So what is a diet? Like, tell me a little bit about what is a diet. They do it to lose weight. Okay, people, do it to lose weight? Yes.
It's diet is like a distinctive group of foods that you constantly.
Look at Stanley. Look at this beautiful definition Stanley gave us. So it's a distinctive group of foods that people eat, right? So it's not just people though, right, Stanley? It can be animals, right? So different animals have different diets. So if you get a little bit of spinach and you give it to a lion, that lion's gonna be like, what are you doing, man? Right? It has different diets. If you get a cheeseburger, give it to a little koala bear, it's gonna be like, I don't know what to do with a cheeseburger. So each animal has a different diet, and these birds also have this different diet. So, for example, remember that really thick beak one? It was trying to crack seeds, so that's why it had this really strong thick beak, so it could crack seeds. The finch, the vegetarian finch, it had to like break off pieces of plants, so it has this kind of like good beak to like tear stuff out. Now the woodpecker finch, its beak is really thin and long because then it can like pick up worms. So if a little worm is like hiding over there between the rocks, the woodpecker finch can like go there and get it and have a little meal. And the cactus finch, if you're having a tear open, have you guys ever touched a cactus? Like, how you feel it? How did that feel? Right? It doesn't feel good. It's thick. It has thorns in it. So all right, everybody, it's me. It's me right now. But we can do that story later. So see that it's a long beak and it's strong to tear stuff apart. So it's long so it doesn't have to touch the thorns when it's trying to eat. But it's also strong so that it can break off some pieces of the cactus. So this is in your guided notes. Please write this down. So the seeds, the one with the seeds, it was large beak so it could break the seeds. The cactus had a sharp beak to tear open the cactus. The plants, they were firm to tear apart pieces of the plant. And the insects, they had small and thin beaks so they could reach insects in small corners. You know, if you're trying to kill a little cockroach and it goes underneath a little thing, you wish you had a little beak so you could like reach over there and pick it up. Probably not because you wouldn't want your mouth close to a cockroach. But you know what I'm saying? It gives you different tools to reach things that you need to reach. Alright, so I'm going to let you guys finish writing this down. Everybody's done with their notes, see? Alright.
How you calling a cat?
Alright, that's not a conversation for right now, Xavier. Thanks for bringing that question up. So again, noticing the difference in the beaks. So the finches, please, this is in your guided notes. Please notice, if it's underlined, you're supposed to write this down, stuff down. The finches were adapted to their specific environment. Please silently write this stuff down. Alright, so the finches were adapted to their specific environment. Adapted in this case means they were good at, basically. They were shaped towards their different environments. So they had beaks that made them the best at eating food on their specific islands. Because the islands, some of the islands, they all have the same temperature, right? They're close to each other, but in some islands there was more insects. In some islands there were more nuts. In some islands there were cactus for people to fall on, for birds to eat, right? So if you put a bee, for example, you think that a bird with a really strong beak would be the strongest bird, right? You wouldn't want that pet peeve. But if you got that bird and put it in an environment where there's just worms for a tree, it's going to have such a hard time getting that worm out of the ground that it's probably going to starve. Okay, so please write this down silently. Natural selection is a process by which traits, which means characteristics, become more or less common in a population due to different levels of survival and reproductive success. Alright, so natural selection is a process by which traits, which means characteristics, become more or less common in a population due to different levels of survival and reproductive success. You guys remember, the light moths, I killed all of those with my little game, right? They were easy to see, so I got them like that. The dark moths, though, they became more and more common because their trait was something that was difficult for me to locate. So, basically, oh, you're not done?
No.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have faults, you know that.
You said
We tend with this was
Alright, so the traits become more or less common if, in a population due to different levels of survival and reproductive success. So basically, the individuals best adapted to their environments will survive and reproduce. If you're really good at what you're doing, you're going to do it the best, you're going to be able to keep doing it, right? If you're, for example, playing basketball, and you're awful, people are going to kick you off the team really quick. You're not going to be able to make money, you're not going to be able to do anything. Now, if you're good, you're going to keep going, right? So that's the same thing with these traits. If they're good at what they're doing, they keep showing up and showing up and showing up in the population over and over and over again.
Come on.
Alright, so this is the... No, it's not.
Damon's not talking.
You can write this down, but it's not in your guided notes. So, this is just a summary of what we were learning. You can write this down though. So basically, the individuals best adapted to their environments will survive and reproduce. That is the definition of what natural selection is like. Okay, I'm going to keep going, okay? So, here we have the moths, right? This is the moths that we were seeing in our example, in our little game. So, for example, in the first one, let's say you don't need to write anything down at this point. Please notice, if this is a light environment, the light plots are hiding themselves and you can't see them. But let's presume this is a dark environment. So here you can see the white moths like that, really simple. They stand out. So here, notice that two of the white moths died. Here, two of them died. Now, compare this one with this one. What is the difference in these two populations? Please silently raise your hand when you have the answer for me. Stanley has an answer for me. Adrian has an answer for me. Devontae, do you have an answer for me? Yeah? Is that what you said? No? Okay, let's go with Adrian. Adrian, what is the difference between those three populations? So there's three different generations? Okay, yes. But what is the difference between generation 1 and generation 2? And 3, I mean. Yeah, what's going on? The colors are different, right? So they're still the same trait. It's still black, still white. But the frequency, how common the traits are, it went from really light to mostly dark. So that is natural selection. Natural selection took out the light moths and put mostly black moths. The black moths didn't die, so they kept reproducing more and more, and the light moths died off. So what does this mean? You guys have Guided Notes, should be writing this down right now. Devontae is writing it down. Thank you, Devontae.